Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boris here with some more Pathfinder Dream Team 6-character playthrough game adventure thing. It's time for the second to last scenario of Chapter 1. This is Approach to Thistletop. We're tracking down the leader of the goblins, trying to figure out who's causing all the raiding parties on Sandpoint or whatever. In this scenario, goblins are harder. Obviously, the villain is a goblin and the henchmen are goblins as well, but any other goblins that you find are harder by 1d4. And there's the villain. It's a pretty tough one. So he's kind of like Black Fang. He deals 1d4 minus 1 fire damage to you, which is either a huge deal or not a deal at all. You can't play allies with the animal trait is pretty immaterial, and the fact that all of his damage is fire damage is not that significant either. But this combined with the fact that he has 2 combat checks, combined with the fact that he's a goblin, so he's really going to be 11 to 14 for the first check, plus 13 to 16 for the second check, makes him a pretty tough villain, especially if you stumble into him by yourself. There are some special henchmen, so Tangletooth is actually pretty easy. It's not a goblin. You have to re-roll the dice. Or sorry, you don't have to re-roll the dice. But everybody at the location encounters Tangletooth, but it's only an 8 and it doesn't get buffed. So that's actually kind of a gift. And then Berthasmus is also a gift. You have to encounter him twice. But again, it's only an 8, so that's not that big of a deal. The hardest henchmen are really these goblin raiders. Sure, it's only a 9, but again, it's buffed by a d4, so it's up to a 13 for each of these, so it can be a little bit tricky to deal with them. Also, the heroic and legendary versions of this scenario have 2d4 addition to difficulty for the goblin raiders, which is quite a challenge indeed. Okay, let's go ahead and set up our characters. I think Sela's going to go to the garrison. This is a very friendly location for her, as I've explained before. If she sends away a weapon or an armor to the bottom, that gets saved when the garrison is closed. Amiri will start there, but she will go to the... Oh my god, I gotta remember I don't actually have my mouse here, it's just for show. The Nettle Maze, because it has a ton of monsters. Then we have our usual conundrum about the prison, which is that Mariziel can easily acquire boons here, but she's not very good at the check to close it. Unless, of course, she picks up her... her crown of charisma. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start her out at the Goblin Fortress. She can close this location if need be, because she's a really good combatant. Remember, the goblins are harder in this scenario, and on the Goblin Fortress, they're hardest of all. It's you're basically getting a d4 plus 2 to the difficulty of all goblins. So it's a pretty tough place, but she's a good combatant, so I don't have any lack of faith in her. And then once she picks up her crown of charisma, she can go over here and be our designated closer for the prison. Harsk will go to the woods. You can do some cool tricks there. And then Linny, I think I'll send her to the treacherous cave. Doesn't have too many monsters, and she's good at the closing check. So where does Ezrin go? Well, you really don't want to put Ezrin at the guard tower because he has to encounter a bandit henchman at the start of his turn. So Amiri is okay for the guard tower. Like I said before, the problem with the guard tower is it doesn't actually have that many monsters. So while Amiri can avoid the negative start of turn effect, her talents are kind of wasted there. So I don't want to send you don't want to send spellcasters there because they're going to run out of spells. You don't really want to send Ezrin to the prison because you can't close it very easily. And Amiri's going to the Nettle Maze. Now, Ezrin does have a lot of combat spells, so he could go there as well, but I think sending him to the bitchy waterfront is decent. He's likely to have enough spells to kill the henchman and then kill the bandit henchman to close it. If not, he can leave at some point and hang out with somebody else for a time, but this gets around the waterfront's negative ability of a penalty to die rolls whenever you're using a weapon. Okay, so that's our starting strategy. Let's go ahead and actually begin the scenario. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Zooming in. And... action. Alright, so Amiri's only got one weapon. Sela has no weapons. Okay, so this is the moment. I mean, what do? Do you give Sela your weapon here as Amiri? I think the answer is yeah. Boy. It's tricky because, okay, let's think about this for a second. So Sela's at the garrison where there's only 3 monsters. Amiri's going to the Nettle Maze where there's 6, so she's much more likely to actually need her weapon than Sela is. Sela, what can Sela do? Well, she can recharge the half plate, she can play a blessing and a standard bearer, and she can cure herself, maybe. So she's actually in better position to cycle. Yeah, alright, so I gave myself the option, but I'm electing not to use it. I think Amiri just needs the weapon more than Sela does right now. Alright, and there's a Bunyip, everybody's favorite yip. It's the classic yip of all. Anyway, so let's think, do I need to shoot an arrow here, or perhaps bury my armor. So this, okay, so it's 6.5 plus 4.5, that's 13, plus 4 is 17, so on average it is going to beat a 10 quite a lot. I have to roll a 6 on those 2 dice. It would suck to fail this, but I should conserve my resources because this is a tough scenario. So, yeah, I'm just going to roll this and hope they don't roll like a 1 and a 2 or something unusually bad. Alright, it didn't happen. Let's go ahead and discard the standard bearer. Keep exploring. We got a goblin commando. Well, it's a good thing I didn't bury the armor, because this one range combat damage is now absorbed by my recharging armor. Leather armor is just good enough for that. And it's a combat 12 because, remember, this is a, a difficult scenario. First of all, I failed the check against the bunyip, which makes all my checks harder by 1 for the rest of the turn, and then I rolled a d2, or a 2 on a d4 on the commando to make him harder because he's a goblin, so 9 plus 2 plus 1 is 12. So here, let's reveal the Warhammer, and I gotta think, I can Barbarian Rage away my Warhammer, I can play the Blessing, or I can just have Harsk fire an arrow. So if Harsk fires an arrow, am I going to feel comfortable with this? I have to roll an 8 on d12 plus a d8 plus a d4. So that's 6.5 plus 4.5 is 11, plus 2.5 is 13.5. That is more than 5. Yeah, we're going to chance it. So, Harsk, you don't need the Potion of Glibness here, so let's just do that. Oh, yeah, and it's +1, because Harsk got a power feat. So, yeah, so that makes me feel way more comfortable. I only have to roll a 7 on these 3 dice, which should be fine. Alright, and I haven't actually played any Blessings yet for anyone, so I'm just going to go ahead and spend a Blessing to discard. No! Oh, the Skeleton Horde. Okay, this is definitely the worst thing. So, Skeleton, everybody at an open location has to fight a Skeleton. It sucks because it uses up... The thing that it sucks the worst for are your casters. So I have to use up one of my combat spells here. I could go for Strength, and yeah, I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use Strength on myself to save my combat spells on this. I don't want to use the Quarterstaff because then I'll get penalties to the check. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Harsk fire an arrow for Ezrin. So now... gosh, it's a little dicey having to roll a 4 on these 2 dice. Am I actually better off just chucking the Quarterstaff? Let's see. So I have to roll either a raw 8. Yeah, I think this is probably better. So let's roll that. Okay. Alright, the other person I'm concerned about is... Oh, hang on, I get to use this. Oh, nothing happens. Okay. The other person I'm concerned about is Linny. Does she get an Inflict in her opening hand? She did, but now she has to use it on this guy, which sucks. And now she doesn't have a combat spell for the Treacherous Cave, so there's a 30% chance she'll encounter a monster and not have it inflict on hand, which is a little sad. So hopefully the monsters are near the bottom for her. Okay, and then we have Seela, which isn't great either, because, yeah, she doesn't have a weapon. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm holding on to my Cure, I can heal up anything that gets discarded in there. And I have the armor in case I fail this check. You don't actually have to succeed at these checks. It's just like a big resource hog thing. And then Harsk. Shoot, if I just reveal this, it's going to be a tough fight. I'd have to roll a 6 on those 2 dice. Anybody have some kind of wacky help he can use? Oh, hey, Shalelu. All right, I'm going to do it. It's giving up a scouting / extra exploration, but I feel like it's worth it so that his blessings don't get discarded. And there's a 50% chance. No, that did not make a difference. Never mind. All right, Mariziel's in the best shape. She can just evade this stupid thing. Although, be careful. Some of these things require you to succeed, for everyone to succeed in order for the barrier to be defeated. So, in those, you have to make sure that Mariziel actually fights. But here, that was rough. That was very, very rough. So, Linny used up a combat spell. So did Ezrin. Well, Ezrin used up Strength and a Quarterstaff. Seela lost some stuff. All right, well, that's that. Let's start up with Seela's turn here at the garrison. This is nice, throwing away a crappy weapon. Not having to explore through it. That's really good. And we have another bunyip. Alrighty. A bunyip ahoy! How are these bunyips even, like, hanging out here? That's really what I want to know. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to fire an arrow with Harsk, because basically I want to actually empty my hand of these blessings, and that way if I encounter a monster in the woods, I can just recharge my dagger and then have an empty hand, so even if I take damage, I'm not going to actually lose anything. Alright, let's go ahead and keep on trucking. Guard. This is not useful. I can't discard him to explore again. If it were a different ally, I might have used my power, but since it's not, I won't. And since I have a cure, I'm actually just going to go ahead and discard this blessing and explore again. Ooh, Bastard Sword +1. That's a quality item. So the question is, do I spend a blessing on this to try to pick it up? Man, that's a really good weapon. I think it's worth a blessing. So let me think. Who needs to spend their blessing? That's a blessing of Aristil. Yeah, there's no one has the right blessing to spend. Linny is the most vulnerable, so I'm gonna have her spend a blessing because there's a chance she's gonna find somebody and just get whomped. And alright, we made it exactly, so that blessing did make the difference. And now Seela conveniently also has a weapon. I'm gonna blow a cure here. It is wasting some of its healing potential for sure, but I just want it out of my hand. And I'll try to recharge it because it is a useful thing. So we lost a great sword, which doesn't really matter too much since I have a bastard sword +1 now. Alright, so all in all, it was a pretty good start. In this scenario, you probably want to hang on to your at least one armor because the villain does deal that damage. So I feel like it's worth it. And then the next is Goblin Commando. Okay, so here we get to do some fun stuff. So now Seela has scouted this at the end of her turn, which means that at the start of her next turn, she's going to waste her scouting if she stays here. So we're going to have Amiri pull her away so that she can actually use her scouting on both turns. Okay, this is actually a little bit lucky that I didn't have any allies in hand. And Harsk will just keep on shooting arrows. I really don't want to lose these combat checks. There are 2 barriers at the waterfront, so I'm pretty glad to be holding Thieves' Tools here as Ezrin, and yeah, I'm pretty just all-around content with the situation. I'll take a quick look here. Oh, right, I already knew that. Alright, I'm not going to discard my last 2 cards to explore again. That would be a little bit pointless. So let's roll up and get a pretty nice hand there. Alright, so Mariziel. No Crown of Charisma yet. Acolyte can't be discarded for extra exploration, so I really don't care about it. I pick it up anyway. Alrighty. Ah, boy. Okay, so I guess we're just going to discard this, and I'm not going to discard anything else. It would be nice to go through my deck a little bit faster so I can find blessings and allies for extra explorers with her, but let's not get too carried away. Alright, well, this kind of sucks. So here's the situation, you know, where I have to fight a monster, but I actually don't have my Inflict anymore. Alright, so Harsk is just going to fire off his dagger and hopefully encounter a monster that doesn't screw him up too bad. So I'd have to roll a 6 on these dice. It's, you know, why risk it, right? Yeah, I don't really want to risk it. Let's just play one of these blessings just to make sure that we get this thing killed. And that actually might have made the difference. 50% chance that made the difference based on how they went. I didn't want to recharge my Tiger, by the way, because I want to actually use the Tiger to close this. And so now this is actually this is starting to get to the point where Linny becomes a powerhouse. She's not there quite yet, but you'll notice here, because of Animal Trick getting a +1 and a d4, I'm actually auto-succeeding at this survival check, which is nice. So once you get to the point where you're auto-succeeding at checks to close locations with Linny, that'll happen a lot of the time. Just really, really makes things a lot easier for everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and use a cure here. Again, I'm wasting some healing here, but I want this out of my hand. Rolled bad anyway, so I didn't actually waste any of the healing, and I got it out of my hand. So what I'm trying to do here is get my Inflicts and get more animals so I can explore with the animals that I have. And the Tiger I might actually use to improve my combat checks. Did not find an animal. Alright, glad I hung on to the Tiger, I guess. Alright, so this is a little Woods Trickery. Harsk's hand is empty, so he just fails the check. Doesn't matter, and because it's the woods, the monster is vanquished. The only thing that matters for, by the way, in the digital game, you know, you gain gold if you defeat a monster. You don't gain gold if you don't defeat a monster, but, I mean, I don't really care that much about gold. And, hey, look at that. So there's a Goblin Raider here. Okay. That is going to be an interesting thing, actually. I have to think carefully what to do. So Linny doesn't have a combat spell, and Caltrops will not kill that thing. I'm actually going to go ahead with Amiri and pop over to the woods for a sec to kill this Goblin Raider, because she's better at closing the woods than Harsk is. She has a +3 to survival rather than a +2 that Harsk does. They're both rolling a d6 for wisdom, and Amiri is better at the combat check. So we'll do this. We'll bury her extra weapon, and I think that should be fine. I need to roll an 8 on these 3 dice. They're pretty high dice. Alright, so that's a wrap. And then I need to play a blessing to finish this off. I think we'll just use Well, I could use a wisdom blessing, but I have a 35 out of 36 chance of success with just a regular blessing, so let's just not roll snake eyes and close off the woods. If it had been snake eyes, you know, it would have been annoying, so maybe I should have just used the wisdom blessing. What am I really going to use the wisdom blessing for? Yeah, that was probably a little bit sloppy. But anyway, now I'm going to use my power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go somewhere that's likely to not have too many monsters in it. Prison has 3. Guard Tower has 1, but she and Scylla would have to fight a bandit at the start of their turns. But actually, there's really nowhere better. I guess we can go to the waterfront, which also has 3, and that might help. But that also has 2 barriers. Of course, so does the prison. Yeah, we'll fight a bandit henchman. It's not the end of the world. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to pull in Scylla. So now, at the start of Scylla's turn, she explores. Sure, she scouts. So now we've got extra scouting information. Unfortunately, this is actually a legitimate fight, so that's kind of annoying. And she also has to fight a bandit henchman. Alright, so what we'll do is I'll recharge the half plate because I've got more armor in my deck. It's not actually that big of a deal. Bastard Sword +1 should be fine. Even if it's not, it isn't the end of the world. And now the question is, do I actually fight the zombie giant, or do I just leave that for Amiri to handle? Yeah, Amiri's got a glaive. She's got a more sure thing with that zombie giant. Plus, she can bury. She has an extra weapon that she wants to bury. Look, Amiri has 2 weapons. She wants to bury one of them. Scylla doesn't really want to spend resources, so she'll go over here. I'm an idiot. Oh my god, I'm a terrible idiot. Crap. I should have recharged the blessing, not the armor, because this is where there's a goblin commando who's going to start out by dealing damage. I really should have kept the armor to deal with that. Whoops. Well, yeah, we're just losing an extra card for absolutely no reason. So that was sloppy for sure. Oh, we also rolled a 4 to the bonus damage. Okay, this is scary. So Harsk, I think, needs to fire a card. He's got some things to burn here. Okay, that was a little loose. That was a little bit loose. I probably should have flipped a card with Scylla's ability. And let's go ahead and scout this place. Alright, there's the villain, or sorry, the henchman there. This is the guy that you have to encounter twice, and only the second result matters. So I don't really, it's kind of weird. Alright, so that's fine. Now, Ezrin's got a couple of options. He's got Augury. He could do Augury here. However, there's more monsters at the Nettle Maze. Amiri, unfortunately, already killed 2 of them. So he could go here and have a slightly extra chance of hitting a monster. Actually, here there's 3 monsters out of 9. Here there's 4 monsters out of 7. So that's not just a little bit. That's actually a lot. So we're going to go over here, and I'm going to use Augury at this place. Try to get some monsters out of the way. There's 1, there's 2. All right, that was a really good augury. So just to be clear what's happening here, basically we're getting 2 free explorations on a card that has a pretty good chance of getting recharged. So that's augury at its strongest. And I'm going to go ahead and use Charm Person as well, because I might as well see what I get. Okay. So there's an archer that'll be an extra exploration. So the question is, do I go back to the waterfront or do I stay here? The risk of going back to the waterfront is if I find the villain at the waterfront. Amiri's not here to temp close this Nettle Maze, so these 2 monsters that I defeated and put at the bottom are going to get shuffled back in, which is unfortunate. Then again, what are the odds I find the villain at the waterfront on this turn? It's pretty small. The advantage of going to the waterfront is that, I do have 2 combat spells right now, so if I find a henchman at the waterfront, now is the time. Wait, actually, I moved here, right? I moved here. I have to explore here, at least for this turn. Okay, so this is not that big of a deal, this monster. You basically have to re-roll if you succeed at killing him. And sure, Harsk will fire an arrow. He's always happy to fire pretty much all of his arrows when he's in the... Oh, wait, but he's done with the woods. Why am I... Yeah, Harsk is actually done with the woods. He's got to move somewhere else. So, yeah, I probably should have been a little bit more conservative with my arrows than I was. That was a little bit of a sloppy play. And now I don't really want to explore again, because if I find a henchman, the closing requirement here is to defeat a random monster. So I'd rather save my extra explorations for some other time. So we'll just call it a day. Okay, I have a lot of extra explorations now. Alright, so Meriziel, I could ever go to the waterfront and have, well, it's actually the same odds as here of finding a monster. So yeah, we'll just do this. Alright, we got a monster. This is good. So we're going to go ahead and use Heavy Crossbow. The Amulet of Mighty Fists, I'll keep that just in case I encounter like one of those magic enemies, but I definitely don't need a light crossbow, and I'm almost guaranteed to make that roll. It would have to be like all ones to fail, pretty much. Although, wait a minute, the Rat Swarm, you really have to get a 12, because if you get between an 8 and 11, it's shuffled back into the location. So I actually maybe should have fired an arrow with Harsk. That was a bit of a loose roll. Whoops. Well, anyway, didn't have to suffer from my insolence there. Linny, where the hell are you going to go? Alright, there's really no good place for her, so that has a lot of monsters. This has only one monster, but then the location closing requirement is to kill a monster. Pretty much every place here, you have to kill a monster, so she'll just go here, I guess, just because it's the one place where she doesn't have to kill anybody to close it. Ambush. Alright, I'll use Thieves' Tools on that. Because with most characters, you know, the ambush is a really, really nice barrier. Basically, it's banished. It's banished whether you succeed or fail, and if you fail, you find another monster, or you find a monster from the location deck, which might be a henchman, and then you fight it with a penalty. But even with the penalty, most people can make the combat check, so it's not that big of a deal. You're basically getting a free defeat on the ambush itself, and an extra exploration, even if you fail. However, Linny really wants to succeed at the ambush because she doesn't want to fight anything right now. She would much rather have just a regular rolled extra exploration, and have a chance of not finding a monster. Well, she finds a monster. Shiddlesticks. Caltrops won't evade this because it's too high for that. Oh boy. Okay, well, we're going to have to go balls to the walls Dickens here. Let's discard the Caltrops for strength. Harsk. Fire an arrow. Still really far off here. Does anybody have like a lamb stew or something? No. Harsk could actually fire his bow for a bonus. That's an interesting idea. Oh, God. Alright, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to recharge the tiger for an extra d6. And I think rolling for a 13 on this is still a little bit loose. What is this, 5? It's 5.5. It's 10.5. Yeah, it's a little loose. So we'll pop one of these blessings and just hope I get high enough. I really didn't want such a hard monster, or any monster at all for that matter, but now I should have a higher chance of finding an animal. Do I discard this blessing to explore? Obviously finding a henchman or the villain would be really bad here. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it safe and then get my combat spells. Very good. Alright, Harsk, what do you want to do, bud? Alright, I think Harsk is going to go over to the Nettle Maze and maybe fight a monster. All he's got is a crossbow, but, I mean, that should be fine. And we get a giant gecko. Okay, so just needs to roll a 3 on these dice. Gecko is the easiest. I don't think there's any monsters that are a 7, except for like Tickwood Boar or something, but you have to make a hard check to avoid a difficulty increase. That was pretty much the ideal situation, is that he found a really easy monster that he could just kill without having to do anything. Okay, dull short sword. It's good to know. Alright, so Amiri now has to fight a bandit henchman. Oh, shoot, this is actually kind of annoying because she has to recharge a card. I don't want to lose a blessing, but I also don't want to recharge my weapon, because if I recharge the weapon, I don't get to bury it, and I really want to bury it to get it out of the way. So let's just do that. Get all this crap out of the way, and I think... Let me think about this. So, yeah, I think fighting the zombie giant is fine. Nobody else really wants to deal with the zombie giant. I'll just bury these Thieves' Tools. A bit risky, I know, burying the Thieves' Tools, but should be fine. Let's get rid of the heavy crossbow. And I think I can roll an 8 on those 4 dice. Yes, I can. Very good. Alright, so that's all she can do. Now, I forget if Sela scouted a monster at her location or not. Crap, I can't remember. Well, let's go ahead and, I guess we'll check out the waterfront, see what's there. Let's pull Sela on over. I could have also gone to the Nettle Maze, where I know that there's a dull short sword, and that would have been a good card to put to the bottom. So did we find a Shadow? Okay, so this Shadow is one of the toughest monsters in the base set, because you need to have the magic trait, and it's a pretty high combat check. I'd fight the Shadow, except I'm getting a -1 on my dice, using the Bastard Sword +1, because it's the waterfront. So I'm going to save that for Ezrin, and I'm going to go back to keep on working on the garrison. What was it, the garrison? Oh, yeah, so henchman. Right, I definitely want to do this. So, are bugbears goblins? Are they really goblins? I don't know. Anyway, so he rolls pretty high there. Let's go ahead and pitch a card. I need to roll a 7. This is fine, because this roll doesn't affect whether or not he is defeated. I would still take damage if I failed, but I don't mind taking a bit of damage. The important thing is that I actually, like, defeat him. So, okay, now, maybe I could actually discard this mace, because I've got these 2 weapons. I don't need them both. Yeah, so I need to roll a 7 on those 3 dice. That should be fine, but why risk it? Especially when Harsk has, extra cards sitting around in his hand. Okay, so now we have to fight a banded henchman with a slightly increased difficulty. Let's get rid of a blessing, so I'd rather do that than get rid of a weapon. Alright, that was pretty good commentary there, Boris, rather obvious. A 6 on those 2 dice would be a little bit of a loose roll. Hang on a second. Let me think about this. I have a cure in here, don't I? I would like not to lose my cure. I also have a... No, I don't have a Father Xanthus. I gave that to somebody else. I actually don't know who has Father Xanthus. I forgot who I gave that to. So yeah, we'll just get rid of the armor, I suppose. And now I only need to roll a 5 on those dice, which is a much more sure thing. And the garrison closes, so now you have to look real closely. Nothing good. Wow, just crappy stuff. Alrighty. So I'm pretty happy to not have to deal with any of it. I actually don't know why I wasted the time to scout. There's not a single good card in there, so I don't care what I put on the bottom. And it's up to Ezrin. Alright, so Ezrin's got that Frost Ray. I think he is the man with the plan. A Canal Panama to go to the waterfront. Kill this shadow. We're really not making good progress on this waterfront. It's like only had like 1 card taken out of it. Harsk is going to help. I really don't want to fail this check. So I need to roll an 8 on 4 dice, one of which is a d12. Pretty solid. And now the problem is I've got all these extra explorations, but I can't use them. So I'm actually going to recharge a Sage on this recharge check, not because I actually care, but just because I want it out of my hand. I can't go again since I don't have any more combat spells. And even if I did have a combat spell, which I do now, I wouldn't have a combat spell left over to kill the bandit henchman with. You know what? I'm gonna take a risk. There's only a 1 in 8 chance I find the henchman. Oh boy. Okay, this is gonna be a bit of a rough one. Luckily we have Blessing of Lamash too. Does anybody have Blessing of the Gods? Nope. Yes. Okay, there's 1 Blessing of the Gods. All right, so the henchman I can kill. It's going to be a little bit of a costly fight here. Alright, so I need to roll an 8 on those dice. It'd be a little bit of a loose roll, actually, to go for an 8 on those particular dice. I do have Amulet of Life here. Let's see. 6.5 plus 5 is 11.5. Yeah, it's a loose roll. Harsk, unfortunately, I've been pretty liberal with his arrows. So I'm going to have to fight a bandit henchman after this. I mean, I could get lucky, and if one of my, if my Frost Ray or Lightning Touch... Actually, Frost Ray has already been recharged, so has Acid Arrow. So there's like a 1 in 7 chance or something that Lightning Touch is up at the top of my deck, and I'll have it for the Bandit Henchman. I can't count on that, though. Man. Am I just going to have to spend 2 blessings? 1 on this check, 1 on the next? I'm afraid so. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do this for an extra d12, which secures the roll. And it didn't matter, although there's a 50% chance that I would have been exactly on the nose had I not used that blessing. Alright, so we're going to do this. Again, I just want to get rid of the Sage since I'm not likely to be doing that much extra exploring. So let's see if I get really lucky. Yep, nope. Spyglass, good card, but can't use it right now. Let's recharge the Thieves' Tools, I guess. And okay, so now we are going to use this. Matching the Blessing of Lamash too, so that is 1 little stroke of luck here for 2d6, and then Harsk is going to fire his last card. This is actually pretty solid. I have to roll an 8 on these dice. Let's go for it. Yeah. Alright, so, not perhaps the best risk I've ever taken, but at least the waterfront's closed. Oh yes, and I have to discard the amulet. Shit, that's so annoying that you have to discard a card there. Oh, and Amiri has to discard something. Balls. Let's get rid of the crowbar. It's not likely to see much use at this point. And go back to Ezrin, and the turn. Uh-oh. Yeah, sometimes it gets a little buggy, you know. What is going on here? Nope. Can't do it. Can we do it now? Can I move on? Yay! Alright, there we go. Got Augury back. Nice. Alright, let's take a quick look at the map. We got half the time left. I've closed 4 locations, and there's 4 left. So as long as we find the villain, we should be okay. depending on who finds him, I guess. So Mauricio can actually go to the guard tower. There's no monsters here, though, which is what's annoying. She doesn't actually have that many extra explorations, so she's not really the person to go there. I think she should stay here where there's monsters, and hopefully find some. All right, good. That's what I wanted to see, so I don't really care about this. All right, so next up, I'm going to go ahead and discard the Amulet of Mighty Fists. Now that I have weapons, I'm never going to use that thing, and I should be fine with that. Rolling a 7 on 4 dice. Pretty high dice, too. Let's go ahead and use the Troubadour. He doesn't help me close the location here. Goblin Raider. All right, I've been a little lucky, I have to say, finding these raiders close to the top of most of the decks. And let's go ahead and see. Oh, wow. All right, so this is a hard Goblin Raider because there's a +2. I failed to check against the Yeth Hound, that's +1, and then I rolled a whatever. So I guess it must have been +3. So this is going to be a little close. Let's get rid of my armor. And let's see, I need a 12 on those dice. That's a bit dicey. I think we're going to use Shalelu. I don't really need the extra exploration. And let's just secure that check. All right, she didn't really make a difference there, but... All right, so now we have to fight another Goblin Raider henchman. Oh, crap. This is really just as hard. In fact, this is more important, so I should have saved Shalelu for this. All right, well, anyway, do I discard my Thieves' Tools or just recharge them? Let's recharge them. She's getting a little lowish on cards, and then we'll use a Blessing. Looks like Blessing of Shelyn is the one getting used. And that should be fine, just to roll a 10 with 2d12s and change. Okay, so we got that. Now we're also going to get a free weapon for the Goblin Fortress. There's more in there. I doubt I'm going to have time to like go snooping around here to see if they're worth it. We get a Star Knife. This is really good for Valeros, but discarding it for 3d4 isn't that great. Recharging it is pretty good. There's the Crown of Charisma, so she can now close the prison. So should Linny leave the prison? Yeah, I think Linny's going to leave the prison because she can go here. Wait, that was stupid. That was really dumb. No, because Linny, right now, Linny actually has 2 inflicts. She actually wanted to go fight something. She doesn't really have that much extra exploration. I mean, she's got the Blessing of Shelyn. I don't think I can afford to use Blessing of Shelyn to explore, though. I'm really running low on blessings with my team here. There's just not that many blessings around. There's actually no blessings anywhere except for this one. So I should conserve my blessings. And then she's going to have to fight a bandit henchman. Well, I guess that'll be a good use of inflict. Alright, so that's fine. Harsk, oh boy. Okay, the perfect. Oh, this is perfect. So he can find this dull short sword. That's, you know, a qualitative value of Harsk's scouting. He knew this was safe. Just take one quick turn here, recharge his hand, and there's the Goblin Raider. Okay, so this also doesn't have the villain, so we're kind of running out of places to find the villain. I would have liked to have found the villain by now, but well, what are you going to do? So Amiri can go kill this thing, and that seems to be pretty good. I mean, she wants to fight, and she's going to get 2 fights out of this situation. Okay, so just a single increase there. Let's encounter this guy. Use the Glaive. So rolling a 6 on those 2 dice, but I get to discard and reroll if necessary. Ezrin has Strength. Yeah, let's just use Strength. That seems logical. So now the Strength sticks around for the next fight, and if it's an enemy that requires magic trait, then she could have used the Longsword. Wow, she's actually almost auto-succeeding with her bare hands. With anything else, she does auto-succeed. We get a lucky pull from the deck on that one. You may shuffle an item from your discard. Does she have an item in her discard? She does. Oh, yeah, the crowbar she discarded at the waterfront. Oh, yeah, look at that. All right, I'm going to just now pull her over somewhere. Yeah, Steel is at a closed location. So, balls, where do we go? Do we leave the prison open for Mariziel? Or do we have them both fight a bandit henchman at the guard tower? The guard tower... This is almost certainly going to be a free extra exploration because the only monster in the guard tower is the henchman or villain. So I'm willing to fight a bandit henchman in order to get a free extra exploration. Because while I do have 11 turns left and not that many cards left to explore, if the villain is the last thing I find, I could actually end up in a heap of trouble. Okay, so she has to fight a henchman. Bandits, which is kind of annoying. But... We'll just roll with it. I mean, I could roll like a 2 and a 1, and that would be bad. All right, I got a little lucky there. I didn't want to throw cards off the top though, because I still want to get that cure. Oh no, that's not good. Ah, that's really not good. Shit. So the problem is, first of all, I'm going to have a 3/4 chance of losing my bastard sword. The other problem is, and then I'm going to have to fight him barehanded. The other problem is that nobody's at the prison to close it, so I kind of wish I'd gone to the prison. Well, this is going to be tough. I got really, really lucky that he didn't do damage to me. That is definitely a stroke of fortune. All right, well, Harsk, you fire those arrows, buddy. Gotta get a 5 on those 3 dice. Should be okay. And then she can actually pass off the second check to a Miri. So when a monster has multiple checks, you can pass them off. And I think that's a logical thing to do. So, Amiri, why don't you take this one? Let's use the Glaive. Let's bury the unmagical armor. Let's fire an arrow. Anything else to help here, guys? Just blessings? Let's see. Do I need to use a blessing to hit an 11? You know what? Why risk it? Let's just play with blessing. Get another big ol' D12. It did not make a difference, but that's fine. So we closed that location at least, and now Gogmert's in the prison. So this is pretty good because I actually have more turns left than there are cards left at the prison. So even in the worst case scenario, where he's at the very bottom, I'm gonna get there in time. But yeah, that was a little close. And if she had lost her bastard sword, we would have had to spend more than a couple of blessings to do this. Let's go ahead and let's see. Do I spyglass or augury? I definitely don't want to bump into him. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna augury first, because then I spyglass afterwards, and then I can be guaranteed of not fighting Gogmert. So I didn't find any monsters, unfortunately, which is a little bit annoying, but that also means that Gogmert wasn't one of the top 3 cards, and after a shuffle of the deck, he might be. So it's still kind of a good thing. All right, now we... Wait. Let's do this, actually. See if I get something. Acid arrow. Hey, nice. All right, so now I actually don't mind fighting a monster. I mean, I could have fought with lightning touch, I guess. There's Gogmert. All right, well, sweet. So so this is one of the things about augury. Like, even when it fails, it's still good. So I'm definitely not going to fight him. That would be pretty stupid. I'm just going to pass the turn here. And who wants to fight Gogmert? Well, Meriziel can't do that great of a job against him. So I guess she's going to explore the Goblin Fortress, see if there's any good weapons here. And boy, howdy, there are. All right, that's fine to have. Is it worth spending a blessing? I don't think we really need to. Just conserve our blessings here. Let's just make sure we pick up this dagger. Because that's a good item. It's a good find. Alright, so that's that. And let's see, does she have any blessings left in her deck? She's got a bunch, actually. So I'm going to discard some of my crapperdoodles here. Because she's not fighting ever again in this scenario. So I'm just going to completely discard my hand to get those blessings for the final battle. Ah, she got Father Xanthus. Very good. Alright, Linny is probably not going to fight Gogmert. So I think she'll go join Meriziel Christmas and see what that last weapon is in the Goblin Fortress. It's a sling. Okay, well, that's not the most exciting thing. Let's take a look now at Linny's deck. She have any blessings? She has a blessing and an aid. So actually, it's worth it. Let's discard all of her hand as well. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. There's the blessing and the aid. Perfect. Does Harsk want to fight Gogmert? He doesn't actually have any, what's her face? He doesn't have any armor, so he's just going to pass his turn as well. So it's one of the advantages of, doing well in a scenario is you can, kind of take your time with stuff. And I think at this point, I don't need to dilly-dally anymore. We can just go fight him. She's got an armor to absorb the fire damage. And she can definitely take on both checks by herself. And I think Ezrin can do one as well. So it's fine. Okay, so this is the last location. It's the end of the line for Goggy over here. She does take some damage, not a problem. Let's just bury this magic armor to cancel it all out. Okay, so I think first let's use. Let's see, what does Ezrin have? He's got a Frost Ray, which is actually pretty solid. Yeah, let's let Ezrin do the first one. So here's Frost Ray. Here's Blessing of Pharasma for 2 extra d12s and an arrow because I can. And sure. we'll discard that thing as well. And I probably could have played some more stuff, but that seemed pretty safe. Oh, I should have just discarded this. I don't actually care about recharging it because the scenario's over. Okay, so Ezrin took out the first one. We'll skip it. I don't really care about anything. And now Amiri can just go hog wild here. She can discard the longsword +1 and bury the glaive. So this is just overkill. Harsk will shoot one of his blessings and actually play the other one. And oh, we have an aid here, yes. And a Blessing of the Gods, fantastic. And a Blessing of Blemish too, why not? And okay, we got it. That was actually, this is normally a very difficult scenario, but I did get sort of lucky that the henchmen were near the top of the decks. And although there was some scary moments there with Gogmert when Scylla found him, overall it wasn't too bad, just because I was able to close the locations. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, as you always do. And if you want to stick around for some bonus times, here are the rewards. We actually get a pretty crappy weapon there. Most of these card rewards at the end of scenarios are just not very good. It's junk, but if I get like one good one out of 6, that's like a win, pretty much. Boy. Okay, so that's nothing. And hey, Great Axe! That's probably better than one of the things that Scylla or Amiri has. Short sword. Okay, so like I said, 1 out of 6 is a win. Yeah, 1 out of 6 is a win. Alright, well, that's fine. So at least I got one good thing there. Let's see now. Battle Axe. It's an okay card for Valeros, but a D6 plus discarding for a D8 is pretty weak at this stage, so let's get rid of that. Bastard Sword +1, very nice find. We can get rid of some junk there. She needs a blessing, too. Ezrin. Ezrin. Just cleaning up, throwing away some crap. Alright, so there's some stuff. Does she want a light crossbow or a heavy crossbow? Well, light crossbow or a dagger +1. What does Harsk have? Harsk has a couple of random daggers. I feel like the dagger +1 is better in Harsk's hands than in Merziel's, because Harsk is a worse combatant than she is. Harsk actually has an extra blessing, which we'll give over to Scylla. What does Linny have? An Elven Chain Shirt. Somebody should use that. Yeah, let's do that. Wait a minute, hang on. Who better wears it? Oh, Amiri already has a magic armor. Okay, so we'll spread the love around a little bit. Now, I don't want to forget that Great Axe, so yeah, let's get rid of the Warhammer and put a Great Axe in instead. Let's do a quick check on View All. Did I miss anything? Nope. Okay. Alright, that'll do it for real, folks. In the next video, we're going to wrap up Chapter 1 with the Thistletop Delve. I'll see you then.